Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Dan salam sejahtera. Very good evening. Terima kasih kepada pengacara majlis yang bahagia, Dato Rosli Abdul Latif, pengarah Unit Perancangan Ekonomi Negeri, yang bahagia Datuk Nur Yahati binti Awang, Deputy Secretary General, and rest, Ms. Natalia de Rodova, Environment Division ASEAN Secretariat, Yang Berusaha Haji Teknologis Wan Abdul Manan bin Wan Abdullah, Registrar, UMT, yang bahagia Datuk Insinyur Muhammad Zaki bin Amin, Director General of Nahrin, yang bahagia Profesor Emeritus Datuk Dr. Azizan bin Abu Samah from YPASM, yang berusaha Encik Abdul Syukur bin Jamaluddin, Chief Executive Officer Sultan Mizan Atlantic Research Foundation, and all the people in here tonight. Alhamdulillah, saya ucapkan selamat datang kepada semua tetamu ke negeri Terengganu Darul Iman daripada ASEAN. Terima kasih kepada penganjur yang menjemput saya untuk berucap dalam majlis pada malam ini. Tentunya setinggi-tinggi tahniah kepada pihak Kementerian NRES, kepada pihak National Water Research Institute of Malaysia, UMT, dan semua tenaga-tenaga pakar yang datang daripada ASEAN ke Terengganu untuk bertukar pandangan mengenai persoalan semasa yang sangat relevan pada waktu ini. Sudah tentu tajuk perbincangan tuan-tuan dan puan-puan sekalian adalah sangat penting dan perkara yang perlu disegerakan serta diutamakan kepada semua warga ASEAN. Ladies and gentlemen, distinguished guests and speakers, friends and partners from across ASEAN, it is an honor to speak, or rather share my thought tonight, because I would consider myself not just a mere Chief Minister of Terengganu, but I consider myself as a fellow engineer and scientist, speak to you today on the issue that transcends borders, economies and ideologies, which is the rising sea levels which threatening our region. An issue that is quietly yet relentlessly reshaping our coast, our cities, and our way of life. That issue is sea level rise, the rising tide that threatens to drown our future if we do not act with urgency and unity across ASEAN. This is the truth that we all must face, that the sea is rising, and so must we. Let us be clear that the climate change or global warming, if you like, in which the very reason of the sea level rising is not tomorrow's problems, it is today's crisis. In Malaysia, we have representatives from NRES and Water Research Institute, we have from UMT, University of Malaysia Terengganu. We are already feeling its way. We are facing, as we sit and having dinner tonight, tidal surge affecting coastal area, coastal flooding and erosions, vanishing of land areas, saltwater intrusion into freshwater supplies and agricultural land, and displacement of communities. Sir David Attenborough, I think each one of us here quite familiar with the program of Sir David Attenborough, National Geography, and so on and so forth from BBC. A prominent figure, English broadcaster, biologist, natural historian, and writer, once said, "Now we are facing with the consequences. The seas are warming, rising, and becoming more acidic. It is a sobering thought that coral reefs may be lost within the next century. Many individuals are doing what they can, but real success can only come if there is a change in our societies, in our our economics, and in our politics. People who are going to be around in 10 years' time or in 20 years' time will blame us profoundly if we don't do anything about it. That's what Sir David Attenborough said. In a work published in 2020 in the Scientific Journal of Scientific Data, Anne Sesneff, an ocean geophysicist at the International Space Science Institute, and her colleague reanalyzed the satellite record and found an alarming trend which showed that sea level rise at 20% of the coastal sites they surveyed across Europe, Asia, and Africa, and was significantly different from that of the open ocean. And there are crystal clear scientific explanations for that. And of course, I will not spill it out tonight. So we know that we have the issue of sea level rise, and the sea level rise in the open ocean as compared to the coastal area is different. We have a very significant different rate of rising at the coastal compared to the open ocean. Our ocean, our ASEAN region, which is a home to over 680 million people, is one of the most vulnerable places on Earth to the effect of climate change. It's quite dense compared to other places. If you compare with America, for example, they have about 200 over million population as compared to what we have in ASEAN. From the low-lying coast of Vietnam and Thailand to the archipelagos of Indonesia and the Philippines to the Mekong Delta, sea level rise is not a distant threat. It is already lapping our shores, displacing communities, damaging crops, and eating away development gains. And this kind of threat we are facing in real time in Terengganu. According to the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, IPCC, the global sea levels have risen over 20 centimeters since 1900, and the rate is accelerating. And just now, TKSU explained about what she heard about the rising of 1 point over centimeters, I guess. Yeah, millimeters across certain period of time. And it keep on rising. In Southeast Asia, the land is not only threatened by water from above. In many places, the land itself is sinking due to groundwater extraction and urban development. The crisis affects everyone, but a very important fact that we have to understand and dwell, it does not affect everyone equally across ASEAN. The coastal cities like Jakarta, Bangkok, and Ho Chi Minh City, for example, face existential challenges. Rural fishing and farming communities, often with fewer resources, are forced to adapt or migrate. Our mangrove forests, coastal reefs, and vital ecosystems, natural barriers, which is the natural barriers against storm surges, are being degraded. Yet while the threat is grave, we are not 100% powerless. Tonight, or rather since the early start of today, in Terengganu, you already sit down and discuss about it, and I guess you have another session tomorrow with, I've seen the title of the discussion and presenters with the credible scientific background from the presenters across ASEAN. I believe you have to sit down and think about it and discuss about it seriously. And somewhere else later, we are going to continue discussing about this. So our planning and actions at the end of the day need to be bolder than ever. In ASEAN, we have a shared history of resilience. We know what it means to unite during difficult times, and we have to consider the issue of sea rise as one of the difficult times that we have to work together. Now we must channel that spirit into a regional strategy, one that emphasizes adaptations, innovation, and solidarity. based on one simple but important rule. We have the same objectives across ASEAN, but unique strategy for each one of us based on our demographic, based on our economic background, based on the setting of our shores across ASEAN. There are a couple of strategies that I might want to explain it tonight. It's quite simply, just on the surface of it. The first one, we must invest in climate resilient infrastructure. The seawalls, flood barriers, elevated housing, and sustainable drainage system must become a new normal. The second, nature must be our ally. We must restore mangroves, protect wetlands, and integrate ecosystem-based solutions into our urban planning. Nature has always protected us. Now it's time we protect our nature in return. Third, we must prioritize climate finance, not just from international donors, but from within. We must commit our own budget and encourage private sector participation to fund adaptation at scale. Number 4, we need to support the most vulnerable. Adaptations must be people-centered, from early warning system in remote areas to fair relocation policies that ensure dignity and opportunity for displaced families. 5, we must speak with one voice on the global stage. ASEAN must be a forceful advocate in climate negotiation, insisting on greater ambitions from major emitters and fair access to climate funds for developing nations. 6, we must empower our youth, which is the next generation of ASEAN leaders, engineers, scientists, and community organizers must be equipped and inspired to continue this work long after we are gone. And finally, I've explained about 6 of them, but finally, which is I think the most important things, I would say, the rest of the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6, they are all straightforward and understandable. They are all part of the scientific things and all that. The most important thing, which is the most trickiest of all, I would say, whether we like it or not, is not science and statistics. Science based on facts and figures. Statistics based on numbers, which is also fact and figures. Based on my experience as an engineer and scientist before, as a researcher in the public university, an expert panel at few ministries nearly 20 years ago, and then now as a member of parliament or lawmaker, you call it in Philippines, and a chief minister and a politician, I would definitely say that the biggest hindrance is not science and mathematics or the facts of the matters. Our biggest hurdle would be, quote unquote, I put it myself, an art of relentless convincing needed to get the science that we believe, to get the numbers that we plug in, or we calculate, if you like, to get all the facts and figures through, number one, through our policymakers or the decision makers, to act based on what we propose. They just may sit down and just listen to your explanation, your scientific explanation and numbers, but at the end of the day, they are the ones who decide to move forward things. That's number one. Number 2, we need to convince the broad spectrums of our politicians and our politicians. This is another problem. We have quite broad spectrum in parliament. It's not just in Malaysia. I think it's all over ASEAN, for that matters. And if the government of the day need to bring any matters or any laws into parliament or enact anything or to spend lots of money on things that related to sea level rise, they need to make all these people to understand, really. Otherwise, we are going to face a strong objections and retaliations if they don't understand. And number three, which is also we need to have a very convincing and persuasive is our public at large. Our public, or we call it in Malaysia, we call it our rakyat. I think Indonesia also, they call it the same thing, in Brunei. It's far more complex than ever. As we evidently observe and compare them in the past, things in the past 20 years ago or 30 years ago, particularly with the presence of social media. We may decide we want to do something on the ground, for example, to tackle sea level rise, but the objection with the people surrounding it bring to the social media. So you need to have a different strategy to deal with them. And that's not end yet. So as a scientist or expert, you come to this discussion on any other workshop or any other seminar, you come to a conclusion and everybody agrees that we need to act accordingly with our findings. So the next hurdle, out of those three hurdles, we might settle in one ministry, okay? And rest agrees that this is a very important issue, need quick fix action to address the sea level rise, for example, but still, NRES need to talk with Ministry of Economy in Malaysia and together with the Finance Ministry of Finance, because they are the one who have what it takes to move or to do anything to tackle the sea level rise. And that might take months of deliberation back and forth with those who give a final say, how much money being approved for your projects. And as we speak, 6 months or 1 year, we might see the effect of sea level rise or the erosions killing us. So this is the challenge that we have to consider. Ladies and gentlemen, to all, this is not just a battle to preserve lands. It is a fight for justice, for identity, and for the future of our nations. The sea may rise, but so too must our courage, our cooperation, and our commitment. Let us rise together for a safer, stronger ASEAN, above fear, above complacency, above borders. Let us turn the tide together. We can fight that. Again, my final note, Sir David Attenborough said, for the very first time in the history of Homo sapiens, which is us, we are asking people in different cultures, on different continents, with the different moral systems to agree. That's never happened in the history of humanity. We can't suppose it's going to happen overnight. We just have to keep at it. With that final word, again, thank you very much for being here in Terengganu. Do come back with your family for a more casual setting happening in Terengganu. Do enjoy our local delicacies and all, but bear in mind, be observed on your cholesterol level and all those salt. We are talking not the saltwater intrusion to the shores, but to the rivers, but salt intrusion into our blood system. So we have to really careful with that. So with that, thank you very much for coming here in Terengganu. Do enjoy yourself. Sekian, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.